goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, a podcast for wedding craves, where we sit down often with a special guest and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry, so you can learn from us and grow your wedding business. And who are we? Well, I'm Simon, and this is Drop Dead Greg. Together, we are two Scottish-based wedding filmmakers known as Cinemate, and we love nothing more than drinking beer, drinking coffee, and talking to those in the wedding industry. This is going to be a really good episode. I can't wait. It is an episode sponsored by With Jack, but I'll get onto that a little bit later in the show. However, Greg, introduce our guest.
We are talking to Jennifer Moher. Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
Hi. Thank you, guys. This is so wonderful.
Thank you for joining us. What a day. I've been looking forward to this for ages.
Oh, that's great. That's so nice of you to say. Thank you.
So you've... Off camera, we were talking about how we're drinking coffees, and you've got yourself water.
I've got some vitamin water here. It's morning here, though. So
it is morning, yes. So
I did have a coffee.
So you're Toronto, correct?
I'm outside of Toronto, but
okay.
Yeah, that's my time zone.
Okay.
For ease of conversation, yes. Toronto.
Awesome. And we are drinking, for those that like to know what we're drinking, we're drinking this coffee that we brought back from Mull recently. It's a Himba Coffee Roasters Peru. You want to pronounce that?
La Naranja.
Sounds about right. It's lovely. Caramel, nougat, and orange notes. So, yay.
Wow, I'm jealous. This is great.
Here's us in our studio with our nice fancy coffee and our beers, and you're like, fuck these guys.
I know. Well, I did admit off camera that I am in pajama bottoms still. So I'm more comfortable, I bet.
True. Yeah, very true, very true. No, I was just thinking back to that time I contacted you originally. I sent you a little video of my face, and I asked you to come on the podcast. And I think I was rambling a bit, and I remember saying something on the lines of, "Oh, we've been admirers of your work for ages, but I can't remember when it was that we met you." But then I sent you the video, and it came to me very quickly. It was another photography farm at the Biscuit Factory in Edinburgh, and we saw your talk, and then were we actually attending, or were we filming? We've got this kind of deal with Photography Farm where we film.
And that one, yeah.
We were attending, and we just sat in the restaurant, and I remember you were talking to is it Gabe McClintock, and we're just having a really good time. I just remember sitting there going, "This is good vibes. It's good times."
Yeah.
So
I love that. That's so cool. It's so funny. I don't even remember.
I mean, it was 8 years ago, so don't worry about it.
Was it? Jeez.
Yeah, no, honestly, it was 2017, 18, maybe.
Yeah.
Wow. So, that blows my mind. Do you guys feel old? Like, I feel really old. when you start thinking about dates and you go back like that, and you're like, "Oh yeah, back in 2011." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah. That's crazy. I know, I'm the same.
Wild.
Yeah, I don't even try to do the math anymore because it just gets me sad and depressed.
Yeah.
2011 was still just a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I was playing this sort of game, like a do you remember game with a friend of mine who's a photographer. She's a little bit newer, and so I was listing off people. I was like, "Oh, do you remember?" Do you remember when so-and-so was big? And I was dropping names. So I was saying like Jasmine Starr. Do you remember when she had her thing on Creative Live? And Sue Bryce. Do you remember when she was on Creative Live? And I was saying all these names, and she had not a clue, like anyone that I was speaking about. And I was like, am I outdated now?
Well, I mean, nothing screams outdated than your TikTok video with your daughter, and you're like, have you heard about
daughter,
a Tamagotchi? And she's like, I don't know what I don't know. And you're listing all these things, and I'm like, oh God.
Oh no.
Oh no. Yeah. I know all of these, obviously.
It was depressing. And then there's a reverse one where she quizzes me on current terms, and I didn't know any of them. Like, they were just...
I've not seen this one.
I couldn't... Oh yeah, you'll have to go on and check it out. It makes me feel really old.
Give us one. Can you remember one?
Oh, that's such a good question. Okay, let me. Should I check? Should I find one?
Go for it.
I'm gonna find it. Hold on, I'll quiz you. Okay, what does W mean? Just
when?
W.
Win.
When?
No.
For the win.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Maybe we should just stop there. Okay.
Oh, wait, there's one more. There's one more. I got to give you one more. Okay, we know what ghosting is. Everyone knows what ghosting is.
Yep.
They use that.
Okay.
Okay, cap.
Cap. That's cool? Like, nah, that's too... I don't know. I have no idea.
I can't even make a guess.
What is it?
Okay, so cap means that's a lie. Like if you're saying that someone's lying, you say that's cap, meaning that's a lie.
Oh, I've never heard that in my life.
Why do you need a word for that?
Oh my goodness.
It's so weird. They speak a different language. It's really confusing. So
Yeah. Wow.
anyway, that's my life.
Yeah, I mean, we've both got kids, but my eldest is 11, and he's using the word slay and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Giving me you're not cool anymore, Dad. You were never
know.
cool. It's like, all right,
I
calm
know.
down.
I've only got a 2-year-old, so I've got all that ahead of me.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Can't
God,
wait.
good luck.
Although he does use some words I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
So when I think when I was messaging you, you were off to another workshop. How did that go and what?
Yeah, it was great. So I was hosting a workshop actually. I've never been a host of an event before, so it was really strange.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was in Niagara Falls near Toronto, and it was good. It was called the Real Life Conference. It's a smaller event in the Niagara Falls area, and it happens every year. I think she's taking a break for a few years. She just had a grandchild, so she's
Cool.
yeah, she's very much immersed into that now. But yeah, it was really cool. It was great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How big a workshop is this?
This is it's a smaller one.
Okay.
It was only 40 to 50 attendees. It was
Yeah.
a little bit smaller, not like a big 300 person, 500 person
Yeah.
audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was really nice. It was very intimate. There were a lot of great educators that came in and taught some really cool stuff. It was
Cool.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Did you take some time off after that to decompress, or
No
is it
way.
still wedding
What?
season over there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wedding season here is usually like May till about now-ish. Like
Yeah,
usually
okay.
November is kind of the end of it. It's
Yeah.
dying off because it gets so cold here. So yeah. What about you guys there? What is your wedding season like?
I mean, it's definitely starting to slow down.
Starting to slow
for
down,
us
yeah.
anyway.
So I'd say similar. It's sort of April to October, November. Like anything in
Okay.
November is considered like a winter wedding over here, and people
Yeah.
are choosing it for that winter wedding
Right.
vibe. So yeah, anything from April to.
But you're not getting
October.
snow there, are you? This is
No.
a really silly question.
Just
You don't
rain.
have snow. Okay, just a
Rain.
lot of rain.
In fact, just recently we had a month's worth of rain in the space of 24 hours. So there's loads of flooding, loads of people couldn't get to their
Wow.
weddings, and all sorts of crazy malarkey happening. So
Yeah.
no, that's
oh
fun.
my goodness. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, no, definitely not good. Definitely not good.
How many are you guys shooting? Like how frequently are you guys doing weddings?
What's it? I mean, a comfortable number would be between 20, 25, 30
Yeah.
at a push.
Yeah. I
But
think
we do. It's
we've only really done 20 like last year when it was the knock on of COVID. So it's normally between 20 and 25.
Yeah, that's a good number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about
I
yourself?
like that. Yeah, I mean that's what I was typically doing, but I had a sort of a spike way back. We're gonna talk dates now, right? Way back.
only if you want to.
Way
This is-
back in 2012, I think I peaked in that season at 65 weddings, and that was just
Wow.
absurd.
Yeah.
I had 2 kids at the time. I also starred in a local musical, and my life was just chaos, complete chaos.
That sounds
so.
chaotic, yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, I realized that my prices were too low. So I increased everything and changed all of my pricing and booked half the amount for the following season, but still made the same, if not more,
Yeah.
which was great. And so every year I kind of just balance it that way. So yeah, 20 is a good number. This year I actually scaled back and I only did 7, which was actually so fantastic. It was
Wow.
so nice. My partner and I are opening, we opened a pottery shop. He's a potter. So
Oh, yeah, cool.
we opened that. Yeah. So I wanted to be a little bit more involved in that.
Yeah.
So purposely only took on 7 weddings and the education as well.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Very cool. Very cool. What's it like being married to Ewan McGregor?
Oh my God. Isn't he beautiful? He's so beautiful.
He is a very beautiful man. I will admit. Yeah.
He's so pretty. Like there are moments where I just look at him and I'm like, God, like you're so beautiful on the inside, but like, how are you so hot? I just love him. And Ewan McGregor, truthfully, I have always, like anyone who knows me knows, before I even met Dustin, I was obsessed with Ewan McGregor. He's always been my number one. It's amazing. So yeah, I feel great. I feel great about it.
I mean, the only reason I really knew of your husband was through your TikTok. So, I mean, yeah, it was good. Good fun.
Yeah.
Actually, another thing I was looking at is your video on how you're trying to de-Instagram your TikTok. How's that going?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so, learning new apps.
It's for the young, right, Jen?
Oh my God. Lord help me. It's so, okay. I'm doing it. And I am dedicated to making sure that I adapt and I stay relevant, because I think as we get older and as we get stubborn with these things, like, oh, I'm not going to learn this new app, blah, blah, blah. It reminds me of almost like the old film photographers that when digital came out, they were all like, nah, you're all just shoot and burn photographers. And they all had these opinions about us, and now they're nowhere to be found. And I don't want to end up like one of those people. So I'm trying not to be stubborn, and I'm trying to just embrace all the new technology. But so TikTok, I started it, and of course, I tried to make it similar to my Instagram. So it was curated, it was beautiful, it was soft and gentle, and I was getting no traction. People were bored. It wasn't entertaining, and I had to kind of reestablish what I was doing in there. And now it's just a complete shit show. Like, I don't even know what, it's just like, and I'm like, I guess this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know. So it's going fine. I feel like I can just, verbal vomit into TikTok and then leave the curated poetry for Instagram.
Yeah. And how, I mean, do you see a reflection on bookings, or your clients are coming in? Like,
honestly, I don't think so. Like, I don't think that TikTok is actually, for me anyway, it might help when I start pushing more into like using it for my education.
Yeah.
But I think as far as acquiring wedding clients, I don't think it's going to be a tool for me. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep at it. But
Absolutely.
I think that, the majority of my clients are finding me through Instagram. So
Still.
yeah. What about you guys? Like, are you gaining clients through TikTok?
I mean, to be honest, we're on TikTok, but we're not really on TikTok. Like, so we had, we posted a couple of videos, and then one video went mega viral. It's got like 2.1 million views.
Oh, wow.
And so that's kind of like pinned to our TikTok. But then I just kind of left it for a while, because
Yeah, well, I think
I
we
didn't see
posted a
any.
couple of things after that going,
Well, yeah.
let's try and reverse engineer what happened there. Like, why did that one pop off? And nothing else really went as big as that. And it's like, we're trying to replicate that, and it's not working.
Yeah.
And we just sort of stopped using it for a while.
Yeah. So I actually recently rebranded it to this podcast's TikTok, because I thought, to me, it's a conversational platform where it's casual, and that's kind of what this podcast is. I get to be weird on this podcast as well. I try to keep that away from my Cinemate people as much as possible.
No, I think that makes total sense. I think especially because you have this video content, it makes so much sense. Also, can I just say props to you for using the word pop off? Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
My daughter would be really proud.
Yes.
That was good.
Well done, Greg. A round of applause.
You're keeping up. I caught that. I think if you have a lot of video content, it makes so much sense. I think it's hard as a photographer because all we have is photos. So Instagram is still the platform that makes the most sense as far as, photo sharing. I'm still struggling with how to share my work with TikTok. So I think, taking the more education or podcast route makes more sense.
I will say, when I go into a photographer's TikTok and I see them do the whole green screen thing with one of their images behind.
Yep.
That was my inspiration for doing like a show and tell, which we'll go into a little bit later with images.
Yeah.
Because I love hearing the story behind how an image is made or the moment. And I think I don't see enough of that content on TikTok.
Yeah.
But with video, it's a little bit harder to do. I haven't figured that out. But maybe.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Actually, that is making my brain do things, and I think I might use that. And,
create content I can enjoy, please. Yes,
I will. No, that's great. I think it's great. I'm considering rebranding mine to more of an education platform anyway, so that's good.
Oh, you're right. Hang on. This is reminding me of. So I was doing my podcast research, and I was like, "Hey, this link is broken. I really want to see these." Was it a couple in their camper van or whatever, and I was clicking through, and it wouldn't. Like, I was like, Greg, there's a broken link here. I'm going to message Jennifer just in case she doesn't know about this broken link. And I caught you changing your website and culling some content. So first of all, you're obviously rebranding, or just what was the purpose of you culling that particular shoot, and what's your mindset going on with change?
Yeah. So I frequently will go through and review my website, review my portfolio, the blog posts that I have, like everything. I'll review everything, my Instagram, and I'll just check in with myself to ask a few questions. So the biggest question that I ask is, first of all, who am I speaking to? Who is this ideal client that I'm speaking to? And is this work going to resonate with them, right? So that's the first sort of big thing. The next thing that I ask myself is, with every image, with every, blog post, I'm asking, was I just following a trend? Was I doing something because I thought that it would be trendy and cool and I would get likes and follows? Or did I do it because it actually resonated with me and would then resonate with my ideal client? So I do this, probably like 4 times a year, quarterly. Okay. I'll just go through and review everything and just clean things out that I feel, maybe I got caught up in some sort of trend. And I think that was one where there was a bit of a trend for a while, and it's still happening, where it was a little bit edgier, grungier, just like rock and roll sort of clients, drinking, smoking, that dirty boots, messy hair vibe. I don't know if that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
totally.
So I got caught up in it, and I saw a lot of other people doing it, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. I want to be cool. And so I did it, and they're lovely clients. I shot their wedding, and I still love the story, within the session. But as far as, was it true to me? Was it true to my ideal client? Probably not. So it's just something I like to do to reflect on. Yeah.
I mean, it is funny because I was obviously deep diving on your website, and that one did stand out, which is what drew me to it. I was like, oh, this kind of feels a little bit different. So
Yes.
So it's interesting that you do that. Have you heard of the Costa sisters? The Costa sisters? Yeah.
No.
No, that is their whole vibe. So how they would be like, it's not a trend. That's our whole thing.
No.
they rock that style. So
and maybe they were the originators of it, and then everyone else just caught on, right? And that's
probably
that's what happens.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, funnily enough,
and that's that. Sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry. The signal got mixed up there, so I interrupted you.
That's
okay. What were you saying?
No worries. Oh no, I was just going to say that there's also this current sort of trend of that Vogue editorial, direct flash, that vibe. And I'm finding myself getting kind of sucked into that as well. So I keep stopping myself, and I'm like, Jen, just slow down, you know? Go slow. Go slow into the trends.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely is popping off, as Greg would say, in the trend world, for sure.
Yes.
We actually noticed that.
Yeah.
Even at the beginning, like, when did we shoot that Glen Eagles wedding? Was that must have been
last January?
Was it?
Like January before.
Last January, like that's when we noticed it having a thing. And it's still going, which is cool. Funnily enough, Jennifer, we haven't asked you to introduce yourself to our our listeners and YouTube subscribers. So for those who have never heard of you, who are you and what do you do?
Okay. So I am Jennifer Moher, and I am based in and around Toronto, Canada. I've been doing this for 16 years now, wedding photography, portrait photography, and got into education back in 2012-ish. I had no business being in the education world at that time. I was selling like cloud overlays that people could put onto their images. Like it was not good.
Wow, that's incredible. I did not know that about you. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was not great. But I was mentoring others, and it's funny because I look back and I'm like, what was it okay that I was mentoring people in 2012 when I even my work was not refined. It was not where it was today. But it brought me back to this idea of, I don't know in your primary schools there, if you have something called reading buddies. Do you know what that is? Is that a thing?
No.
Okay, so what happens is the older kids, and older, I mean maybe 8 or 9 years old, they get paired up with a kindergarten kid who's like 4 years old. And the 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds teach the 4-year-olds how to read.
Oh, that's
and cool. It really resonated with me when I started thinking about this, is that there's always people who know a little bit less and need to know what you know. And then there's going to be people who know more than you. And there's this almost like a hierarchy of just what we know and our knowledge base. And so it's something I do encourage others to kind of open up and help others and teach others. And there isn't a point where it's like, okay, now I know everything and now I can teach, Like if you're willing to just share what you know, you can mentor and you can help people. Yeah. So I've been doing that for quite a while now.
And it's working out, obviously.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's actually the most favorite part of the education side of the business. That and speaking at events and conferences. I love that.
Yeah. What was it that 16 years ago made you pick up the camera and start your business?
So classic. I had a child, and it's always the origin story. Mom with a camera, but I had a baby, and at the time I was 22, so I was really young, and I was halfway through university, and I was going to school to become a teacher. I was majoring in psychology. I was either going to become a teacher or a therapist. Those were the two options for me.
Okay.
And I had a child a little unexpectedly and went to get newborn photos taken. And the photographer was so lovely and told me all about her business and how she does weddings. And it was like a light bulb moment. Like they talk about these light bulb moments, but like truly I felt so inspired. And the whole drive home, I just was thinking about it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be a wedding photographer. And I didn't even own a camera at this point. I had like no photo skills whatsoever. I was using a little like Sony Cybershot. That was all I had. And so I went home and told my husband at the time, I said, okay, I'm going to be a wedding photographer. And he was like, oh, okay. And almost every week I would come home with a new idea of what I was going to do, what I was going to be. Like I tend to change my mind a lot. And so he didn't quite believe me. And he's like, how are you going to buy the equipment? And we had a Nintendo Wii that we didn't really use often and tons of games. So I said, okay, we'll sell the Nintendo Wii. We'll sell it and then I'll buy a camera. So I did. And a couple nights later, I went out, I bought a very basic camera. It was a Nikon D60 and a kit lens, a little speed light. I had no idea how to use any of it. And I put an ad out on like Craigslist, basically saying, I'll shoot your wedding for free. Hire me. it was just such a disgrace. It was awful. I shot the worst photos I've ever done in my life, but self-taught, just kept refining and learning from my mistakes and grew and grew. And here we are today.
I mean, you're saying 16 years ago, like back then, there wasn't really that many resources to learn from, was there? There's like one-to-one mentoring or like a workshop. So you've done well.
Yeah, thank you. Honestly, even mentoring wasn't really a thing that we could find back then because we didn't have the platforms. Like even Facebook back then, there weren't business pages on Facebook. So the networking capabilities back then weren't there. Yeah. So it was really just who you knew in your local community. And I found that back then, so 2000, I don't even know what year that is, 7, the locals were not willing to share. It was a lot of gatekeeping and, the threat of new people coming in. Yeah. Yeah. It was really interesting. So I took it upon myself in my town anyway, to start, when Facebook groups became a thing, to start a group for local photographers to just network and learn and grow together. So that definitely helped.
Yeah. And I mean, is it still running? Is it still?
It is.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. I'm not as active in it now. I mean, it's totally evolved into something new, but there's like 250 photographers in there. And we have a small town. It's a town of 80,000 people. Yeah. And there's 250 photographers in the group. It's wild.
Jeez. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I remember
it's pretty cool.
When we started 13 years ago, doing video, there was not really many people doing the style that we wanted to do, and I just remember we had arranged a mentoring call with a guy called Joe Simon, and I remember Greg and I in my flat like dump room essentially where we put all the crap, and we were just sitting there around the desk around this laptop over the internet, which was a bit dodgy, just having this call. And he was based in Austin, Texas, and I just remember it was like complete darkness, and just doing that kind of very intense, like one-to-one, like making notes, like, oh, he does this, did this.
Yeah.
So funny, man. Even back then.
But even then, I don't think he advertised that he did mentoring. It was a case of just chatting to him online, and eventually it was like, oh, well, we could have a call and I'll charge you this or whatever. It wasn't like an organized thing, I don't think.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I feel like education really popped off in the theme. Can this be the episode name, please?
Oh, definitely.
Popping off with Jennifer Moher.
You joke, but it's going to happen.
Yep.
I hope so. But it was really interesting because I think it was like 2011 when education really started to become a thing. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Creative Live that really blew that up. And I think that also, in a way, celebritized photographers, whether that's a good or a bad thing.
Yeah.
But it created that rock star photographer thing, like the Chase Jarvis thing and Jasmine Star, and they just became like bigger than life, and it was wild. Like I think Jasmine Star had a tour bus with her picture on the side. Like it was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, she's still going as well.
Yeah,
like
she
still
is
pushing out her content.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, it's inspiring.
It totally is. I want to talk about something on your website. And it might tap into the fact that you come from a kind of social background, but one of the aspects that I most love on your website is it's just a little bit of text, and you say, in order to tell a story, you must understand your own. And then there's this lovely highlight video of your life, essentially. There's no like corny like words or readings or sound clip. It's just clip to clip to clip, and I really love watching that video. What made you put something so private onto your business website?
Yeah, I mean, so for one, I don't know if I even think that that's private per se. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I keep close to myself and I don't, open up about online. But as far as that was concerned, I almost felt like it was such a, okay, so when you watch movies and there's like a moment in a movie where someone has this memory montage, right? It's like in Father of the Bride, there's a clip where Steve Martin is reminiscing and remembering his entire life with his daughter right before she gets married. And it makes me cry every time I watch it. And I'm really drawn into those montages because it's so relatable, for one. I mean, we all of the clips they always show, it's like, the little girl, she's playing basketball and the dad scoops her up to help her get it in the net. And like these like heartwarming things that are all quite relatable. Like we all had, for the most part, if we're privileged enough, we had these experiences in our life. And like, I think my life has been so beautiful and I've been so blessed and I'm so grateful for it. And I don't know, I just wanted to share the beauty of it and how life is so fleeting and it goes by so fast. And that's usually what the emotion is how fleeting it is. Yeah. So I don't know, I guess I just wanted to share a little piece of me and what I find really beautiful in my life and just share some of my home videos in an attempt to kind of connect with my clients. I think that connects even more and deeper than just writing, I picked up a camera at the age of 7. Yeah. I don't know. It just, for me, I wanted to do it in a way that maybe wasn't as wordy and just made them feel something and connect with me on some level.
Yeah. I really like that because I suppose when you think about, like, I've gone through a lot of photographers and filmmakers, blurbs about themselves, and there is so many, not repeating ideas, but like we all share the same passion for creating images. We don't all have the same passion for writing what we love, and there's a lot of the same out there, for good and for bad.
And same with like a lot of people, their story of how they get into weddings is similar. It's like, I just stumbled into the industry.
Yeah.
So you'll be reading them and going, oh, that's quite similar. Yeah. And if that's a client, like a potential couple looking at a website and they're looking at 5 or 6 different photographers, they're going to look and go, oh, they're all kind of similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if my clients I don't think that would matter to them. I don't think they care how I got into photography. I think they are more interested in how I view life and the lens with which I view it through, right? Like, I mean, that's what clients care about. They don't care about what age you picked up a camera. They just want to know that you see the world in a beautiful way. So that was kind of my way of being able to show that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Like, you're known sort of for being a sort of storyteller with your galleries and your images. So what does being a storyteller sort of mean to you?
I mean, storyteller is such a big word in our industry, isn't it? Everyone's a storyteller.
It's having a bit of a moment as well.
It's had a moment, I think, since Jonas Peterson got on the scene. Like, I think everyone's been a storyteller since 2013, honestly. But and a lot of us are, and that's beautiful. I think there's like a curiosity that you must have in order to truly be a storyteller. You really have to be curious about their story. And I think a lot of people just say they're a storyteller and then they show up to a wedding without really understanding who the people are, or they show up to an engagement shoot without really knowing who the people are. And then they just document and then they just show the images and they call that a story. And sure, it can be a form of a story, but I like to go a lot deeper. And especially with engagement sessions, I think that's where it really comes through, because with weddings, it is a story. The day is unfolding. You can retell it as a story, but an engagement shoot, you can't really retell the typical engagement shoot, right? Typically, it's like you take a beautiful couple to a beautiful location and you cycle through about 50 different poses and you call it a day. You make them walk away so you can think of what the next thing you're going to do is, and then walk closer and bump into each other and laugh and get in close and get away. Like, it's like this repetitive sort of weird cycle. And to me, that's not a story. And there's nothing that you could tell after that feels like a story. So I started doing things differently years ago where I would build out a bit more of a conceptual narrative around these engagement sessions because I got really bored and burnt out with just shooting the same things over and over again. So I would start asking more questions about who the couple is. Obviously, the obvious things like how they met, how they got engaged, all of those things, but then deeper. So even on my contact form, I ask what kind of movies they love to watch.
Yeah.
Oh, hell
and it
yeah.
seems like a weird surface level question, but it tells you so much about people.
Agreed.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also ask them what their love languages are. And, if they don't know what love languages are, that's fine. A lot of people actually guess and they'll say, if they don't understand love languages, they'll say, oh, my love language is food. And that's great. That still tells me something, right?
Yeah.
Like I can use that in such a way. But for instance, I just had a couple and they said, okay, we really want to do an engagement session. I said, great, let's talk about the concept. And straight away, I want to build a story with them. So she told me the story, their whole origin story of how they met, how their relationship went. And as it turned out, they were long distance. They were dating for 4 months and then he had to move away to Europe. She stayed in Canada and they were long distance for like years. And he would write her postcards once a month from every European country he was in. And they stayed connected via postcards. And I'm like, that's so romantic and that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So instantly, I was seeing a narrative play out. I was seeing a sort of visual story. And so they still have all the postcards. So we just shot it a couple of days ago. We rented this beautiful space to shoot in and we recreated the whole idea of him sitting at a desk, writing postcards, and then kind of paired it with her off camera a little bit, holding his hand, reading it to give this metaphor of like there's distance, but they're still connected via these postcards. And it was just so much fun to create something that was truly them and felt like a story.
Yeah.
So I think that's more so my idea of storytelling.
Yeah.
Staying on the storytelling aspect, I mean, you even another thing I like about your work is, and if people are interested, you can go to Jennifer's blog. You do these little, I don't even know what you would call them, you call them like portraiture sessions, and one of them's called Venus.
Yeah.
You have a little bit of text, just like a thought, like something to set the tone. And then there's these series of images, and it's just, I mean, take Venus, for example. It's just a woman with some clothes on, with some beads on a beach. And just saying that, it doesn't sound very special, It's like, that's, whatever. But the way that you have these images and the way that you've used that little bit of text and everything else that kind of plays to, like, even the way that you create the images, you're like taking like a detail of her shoulder and the way she's holding the beads, like something as simple as that, you can see that storytelling aspect that you clearly. It's just the way you see the world clearly, and I love that, and I think a lot of people struggle with seeing the world that way. Do you have any? Do you have any tips for anyone to like help those who maybe just don't understand the word storyteller? Like, because obviously it's having a bit of a moment. It's had a bit of a moment. It's maybe even coming out of the moment. But people don't, it's such a nebulous thing that people don't really understand it. So help people understand it a little bit in terms of like,
Absolutely.
So. And I've said this so many times before, I am crap asking questions.
No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're asking. Yes. Okay. First and foremost, I am a massive romantic. Like I do really romanticize everything in my life. Like even I'm looking at my office right now and I have like big seashells from that shoot just sitting on this. And then there's a painting in behind of like a European scene. And then there's lavender, like there's old books. Like I really love romanticizing life. I have books downstairs and there are all these beautiful books of Rembrandt and Michelangelo and just I love art and classical music and things that feel romantic. And so I think immersing myself in that environment and those feelings around me constantly, I think have helped. Like I think our environment definitely shapes the way that we see the world. So I think that's kind of first and foremost. But when I'm shooting, there's so many things. I mean, I could talk about this for days, but one of the key things, especially with that shoot, because I didn't have so much of a direction prior, I just knew I wanted to create a shoot based on the painting, The Birth of Venus. And that was the inspiration. And the reason why is because if you follow astrology at all, Venus was in retrograde at the time. And so what that means is that at that time there was it's called a Venus Cazimi, and what was happening in the astrological world, I feel embarrassed. I feel like you guys are like, this is ridiculous.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Keep going.
But what was happening was that maybe past lovers were coming back into our life. In some way, maybe like they'd slip into your DMs, maybe, things were happening. And it usually is a time of reflection on past loves as well as our own self-love. And so I was thinking about Venus a lot. Just the idea of Venus was in my head.
Yeah.
And then I saw an image of the painting, the Botticelli painting, The Birth of Venus, which is just gorgeous. Like I have literally, it's the background of my phone. I'm obsessed. I think it's stunning. And so I also at the time was chatting with this beautiful redheaded model who kind of, had this Venus sort of look. And we had just been chatting about collaborating at some point, and it just all clicked. And I think that's oftentimes it's like the universe is giving you these secrets, and it's giving you ideas, and whether you're open to it or not, and you're listening, I think that really benefits you. If you just listen and you're like, that's an interesting idea, and then you take it down from the idea sprinkling zone and you pull it and you actually use it. And so that's kind of what happened with that shoot. But during the shoot, I didn't have much of a plan, but the question that I kept asking myself after every photo and every sort of like set of images was, what happens next? So if this was a movie and this is the main character, what would happen next?
Yeah.
If I was watching this, what would I want to happen next? So if she's in the water, what does she do next? Does she jump in and go swimming? Does she get out and walk along the shore? Like, it's just thinking about it in terms of almost a cinematic movie story. And that really, really helps. And then the editing, it's the same thing. When you're going through and you're curating and culling those images, I often see a lot of photographers that just do, they post a blog post or they give someone a gallery and it's like the same shot, like 7 of the same photos, just like slight variations, know? And I'm like, okay, but if we were watching a movie and we saw one scene and then the next scene was almost identical, you'd be so bored.
Yeah.
You would be so bored. Or just same shot from the same perspective over and over and over. You'd be so bored. So just thinking about it in terms of that and getting really tight on that selection and that curating for your blog post or your Instagram reel or whatever it is. So those are kind of some little tips that I would recommend.
Yeah. When we were in Mo, we were working with another couple, photography couple. My goodness, why do I have a podcast sometimes? We were working with a photography couple, and we were talking about like how you shoot and stuff, and we were talking about ideas, and I eventually got into conversating about what I don't show rather than what I do show, because I feel like with film, what you see in a lot of wedding videography is documenting. Yeah. And that's cool. That has its place. But it's like they were asking me how that translates to an actual wedding film. And essentially, I took the example of bridal preps, right? It's bridal preps. You think, oh, the bride getting prepared. Cool. I try my best not to show the bride at all. But that's the first kind of image that you kind of think of, is like the bride putting on her makeup and you see her makeup and all that kind of stuff. And the way I look at it is I don't want to show that stuff because I want to try and build up and recreate that moment of when the groom sees her walking and he turns around. And I want to recreate that. So when he's watching this back, I don't want to show the bride.
Yeah. And by show the bride, you mean not like a clear shot of her face.
Not like a clear shot. Yeah.
Hinting to it with like shots of the lips or shots of her, but not a clean
love
shot
that.
of her.
Yeah. And the mole one, like sometimes it doesn't always work because sometimes they've got kids and it's more like about their relationship with the kids. And there's different relationships. So sometimes that doesn't always work. But in that instance, for an elopement, that very much came off my intention and it worked very well, I have to say. It was very nice.
I love that. It's so reminiscent of movies too. I mean, with the main character, it's like you don't just see them, you know, it's not just first thing in the morning. You just see a shot of their face. Like that's the opening shot of the film. You never see that. It's like, unless it's a really dramatic opening shot. But typically there's more mystery to it. And then there's a beautiful reveal of that main character.
Yeah.
I love that.
I recently went back and watched the film Memento. It was a Christopher Nolan movie. And I'd forgotten all about it. And that it's a movie where it kind of plays backwards. Because the main character has this memory defect. So you're given the end essentially right at the beginning, and the ending. In seeing the ending, you build up an expectations of what these characters are, what they're doing. And it's so interesting to kind of be stripped as a viewer of all your expectations, and by the end of it, you're like completely wrong. I find that super fascinating, and what a great educational film just to watch for thinking about editing. So if you've never watched Memento by Christopher Nolan, go and do that if you're thinking about editing and the power of essentially omitting or showing it's incredible.
It's a classic.
It is a classic.
It's so cool when you see directors that take those creative risks. You know, it's like that was very unconventional, the way that he filmed that. But it got so much traction, and it was such a cerebral sort of thing to engage in. It was amazing. There's a few directors that even TV show directors that I really love for that, just that uniqueness of just trying new things. And sometimes it doesn't really work, but oftentimes it does. There was I don't know if you guys ever watched The X-Files way back in the day.
Oh, hell yeah.
So Chris Carter, I really admire for his directing. I think he's brilliant. But there was one episode that he did, and it was all black and white. I don't know if you remember this. It was a great episode. I can't remember the name of it, but it was very circusy themed, and Cher was in the end. Like, it was just a bizarre episode.
Okay.
But it was shot. He actually shot it on a different type of film, and I don't know enough about film to even quote what he used, but it was different than the typical cameras that he would typically use.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
It was a lot wider, and it was really beautiful, and the whole thing is black and white. I urge you to watch it. I think it's called The Postmodern Prometheus. And it's season 5. I'd have to look up the episode number, but it's so good. It's so good. And it really inspired me way back. I remember doing an entire blog post in black and white for that reason. I was like, well, you know what? If Chris Carter can do an entire episode in black and white, I can do a blog post. And now most of my blog posts are all black and white.
Well, I was just about to ask, because obviously when you go to your website, you do have a majority of black and white images. So when you're shooting or even delivering for a client, do you give all black and white and all color? Like, I know some people do that. Or do you give them what you decide is best for a certain moment?
I do, based on my own, just again, it's telling the story. I think it's quite jarring when you're giving color and black and white, and that's just my own opinion. And I mean, some people are doing that and their clients really appreciate that. I think my clients come to me for the work that I'm providing. So there's no right or wrong. But for me, it's like, again, watching a movie. If you see one scene in color and then it's the exact same scene in black and white, it'd be like, wait, what? Like, it'd be really weird to go through that gallery. Or just, seeing an entire gallery in color. There's certain moments that I just feel it's like the image wants to be black and white. It does not want to be in color. It has to be in black and white. So usually it's about 35 to 40% black and white images in a gallery.
Okay.
And I do let clients know that prior. It's on my information page and they know. Yeah.
So what about black and white? Like when you see an image, what makes you decide this is going to be a black and white image? Like, do you just kind of feel it when you see it, or?
I think so. And I think that's why most of my blog images are black and white. It's the more emotive photos. Just some of them look great in color, but there's something about the black and white edit. It's so timeless. I don't know. It's like a feeling. It's like as soon as you see it in black and white, it's just this like, I don't know, this feeling. I can't explain it.
I'm with you as well. I'm with you as well.
It's somehow slightly more romantic in a way.
Absolutely.
And that probably plays into the fact that you romanticize everything.
Yeah, totally.
But Jennifer, it's clear that you do not have a Greg that you work with, because every time I export a film, I add a little bit more grain into it every time. And he's like, "You've added more grain, haven't you?" And I'm like, No, I haven't added any more grain.
Just a little bit.
And your work's just like chucking all the grain. Get all the grain on. You're like, where's the image? I can't see it from the green. I love that.
Yeah. At the end of the day, though, it's like there aren't really any rules. Your clients are just going to, it's not like I'm like doing something and I'm fooling my clients. Like my clients are looking at my portfolio and they're like, I want that. And then they hire me. And so if you're just doing something that is true to you, that you really love, your clients are just going to hire you based on that. Right?
Yeah, Greg. Yeah. All right. Leave me alone. Let me give the people what they want.
I do. You know what? I will say that with wedding images, though, I do dial it back. Like if we're speaking Lightroom terms here, my grain is at 20 for wedding edits. Okay. But it's like the creative shoots where it's a little bit more, fantastical. Then maybe I'll get wild and go up to 35 or 40. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. Or I'll just do a mega crop and then it's like super grainy. So who knows?
Don't walk back the grain. Don't do.
I know. I'm sorry.
You're fine. I'm going to do a little bit of self-promotion here, Jennifer. If you like this conversation, you can join us on our website, which is, I should read my notes. You can join us on YouTube, youtube.com/@perspective by Cinemate. We also have a website, www.perspectivebycinemate.com. That's great. Ooh. And we're back. Sorry. You do a whole host of different styles of shoot, from weddings to portraiture work. And this is going to come away from the romantic stuff. How much money, Jennifer? How much money do you charge?
I love that question. For what? For portraits or weddings?
Well,
I'd probably say wedding.
Weddings, I suppose, because that's probably what our audience is listening to. But how do you work it out? Especially now that you're doing like 7 weddings a year. Like, how do you keep the lights on, Jennifer?
Yeah. Well, okay, 7 weddings a year isn't as sustainable as 20 weddings a year, obviously. So the Canadian market is interesting because, and I know European, UK markets are also a little bit different. Like the US market seems to be the most impressive market as far as what a photographer can charge from what I gather. But for weddings, I'm around the $7,000-ish, $7,000 to $8,000 mark, but that's like a base. So, and that's Canadian dollars. Yeah. So from there, they could add on a second shooter. They could add on a day after session. They could add on an engagement shoot. Those engagement shoot and day after is around $1,400. It's a 2-hour session. So I'm around roughly $900 an hour ish, $950,000 an hour, like somewhere in that zone. I try not to shoot any longer than 10 hours. That's kind of my cutoff.
Yeah.
8 hours is my standard package that most people book. I do have a rush delivery fee. So if people want their images quicker than the turnaround, then I do charge, it's $1,000 if they want them quicker.
Yep.
And I'll bump them to the top of the editing queue. There's quite a few add-ons. So with add-ons, sometimes packages can range between 8,000 or even 11,000. It just depends on, what people want to choose and purchase. Yeah.
Very cool. I did a quick little Google because I wasn't sure of the Canadian dollar. 7,000 Canadian dollars is a 1,181 pounds.
4,000.
4,000. What did I say?
You said one.
Oh, I said 1,000. Terrible. 4,181. Just for those who are interested in numbers, I'm not. I'm dyslexic. Numbers don't speak to me. So
we actually just finished a rush delivery that a client added on last week.
It was me. It was all me. It was all me. What are you talking about?
I was working all drive home and all ferry ride home from Mull. I was part of that.
It's a team effort.
All right. He does do the importing and syncing. And
okay, well there you go. That's a big job.
You're right.
Exactly.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to diss you.
Yeah,
sorry. That was cat.
I think over the last few years we've only done that like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Is that something that your couples add on regular?
I just added it. Right. So, I'm going to see what happens. It was, I was watching a talk. So I was in LA a couple months ago with Jai Long for the Unrealistic workshop.
Oh, yeah.
And it was great. And India Earle was speaking and she actually had that idea. And I was like, that's brilliant. Like that is such a great upsell. So I've added that. And I think that's, I think it's great.
Yeah.
There's some people, it
works for us.
It's like when you fly. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, it works for us because a lot of our couples are coming over from Canada or America to get married and then having another event later on. So quite often, if they do have that, they want to add on for that event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting time because obviously you're thinking in the back of your mind, I have got a very big editing queue right now. And I know the couple have paid to be bumped, but I kind of feel a little bit mean because it's not the order I should be editing. You know what I mean? It's just little things. Hence why I was up early and I was to bed late at night and I just edited. I was a terrible father. I was a terrible husband. Not the way to be. But
it's interesting because I find like if you do that, I think you can just take time away from other areas a little bit and not so much like bump your, regular paying clients away. Like it's not like they're going to get it any later or anything.
Yes.
It's just that you're just being a little bit more efficient and just sitting down and editing rather than scrolling Instagram for 5 hours, right?
Yes. Indeed. Yes.
So you talked earlier about an engagement session and how you came up with the concept and discussed it with the couple. Is there any collaboration for like the wedding day when it comes to the couple's portraits on the wedding day? Do they have input on them and are you coming up with concepts for that? Or is that a bit more, let's just see what we've got around this venue and shoot what we can?
Yeah. It's not so much conceptual because it's not like we're going to create a whole story and detract from the wedding day and the wedding story. But I do talk a lot to my couples about what they're comfortable with as far as do they want a lot of direction with posing? Do they want it to be a little bit more editorial or do they want total fly on the wall documentary, like journalistic approach?
Yeah.
And so we do have a lot of conversations around that. There have been some couples that have sent me mood boards and I actually really welcome that. I think I'm one of the few photographers that actually doesn't mind getting a Pinterest board from a bride because it allows me to see into her brain or his brain on, what they envision for the look and the feeling of the day. And so I'll accept that. And then I usually voice note them and talk through what they've sent me. So I'll just be like, okay, so I see this image here. And, obviously your wedding is going to be in a barn. It's not going to be at a beach in Santa Barbara. So it's not going to look like this. And, realistically talk through it. But I really like that.
I'm glad you do that, actually, because I've spoken to a lot of people who love Pinterest boards, other people who hate it, but they hate it because there's this kind of expectation from the images to what they want to how their day actually is, and the problem is that I noticed that they don't connect, they don't talk.
Yeah,
the creative and the couple, they just don't talk about it. They just treat it as a resource, and I think it's such a little bit of a wasted opportunity, because it's always great to talk about images and why they like a certain image and what they expect from their day, and
like the example you gave there of if it's a barn and they send a beach picture, there's maybe something in that beach picture that they like. It's not the fact it's at a beach, so you just need to get the communication from them to find out.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's really useful. I really like doing it. And oftentimes too, if it's a shared board, because sometimes definitely for the conceptual engagement shoots, I'll create shared boards where we both pin to it. And I'll make sure that I'm actually pinning a lot of my own work so that my work is in there. So just so they see that style, right? So when they receive their images, they're like, okay, it feels like the Pinterest board. This looks good.
Very smart. I like that.
It's helpful.
Yes.
Yeah. Are you, speaking of Pinterest, are you using that for marketing at all as well? Or is it purely just for the collaboration aspect?
Yeah. So I've half-assed used it for marketing. I do pin things and I try to keyword things, but I have just hired a VA who's going to be taking over that for me.
Okay.
Because I don't know if that's something that I need to be spending time on.
Yeah.
I have had people find me through Pinterest, but it's been pretty few and far between.
Who's your VA? And if you want to keep them a secret, that's fine.
Yeah, she's not a secret.
But what is it that she does for you? Like, is it just what you've alluded to there, or
So she, I met her through the conference scene. She has been a VA for multiple people that are in the education circuit. So her name is Noella Anders, and she's wonderful. She's so great. She's so on the ball. She will literally text me, like I probably have a voice note from her, but she'll text me all the time and she'll be like, okay, we need to do this today. We need to do that today. Like, she keeps me accountable, which I really, really love.
Yes.
So at the moment, her big job and what she's doing is she is switching my entire website over because I was a Flow Themes user.
Okay.
So first of all, my photography website, jennifermoher.com, I actually have Jai Long's wife, Lilu, Studio Lilu, creating a website for me for that.
Oh, cool.
But Noella is taking my education website and transferring it all over to Cadence, which is another theme on WordPress.
Right.
So she'll be switching all of that over and doing all of that, and then creating sales pages for all of my education products and offerings, as well as she's going to start doing my Instagram account, the education Instagram account. So she'll start making posts, creating carousel posts, just all the little nitty gritty things that I don't really want to have to do that I've been doing for however many years. So, yeah, she's great. She's really great. She's going to do all my email marketing, like everything. It's pretty wonderful.
And what is that? Like, is that just to save you time so you can work on other aspects of your business, or are you trying to get some of your life back?
Yeah, I think it's both.
Okay, both.
It's definitely both. And I'm not a very consistent person. I mean, you would think I was based on like Instagram, but in just in terms of my energy, I'm really inconsistent. And again, astrologically speaking, I'm a Gemini, and Geminis are just like squirrel brain all over the place. So I'm not very consistent with keeping up on things. So I need someone who has that work ethic, who can just keep up and keep on schedules. I don't do schedules. Like I'm terrible with schedules. I'm a creative, right? I'm not analytical. So she's just going to help run my business in a way that is more manageable, makes more sense, is consistent, and actually, I've never even had an email list, a subscribers list before, so she's getting that set up. Just all the things that I've avoided because I didn't know how to do it.
Okay. Yeah. For those creators out there who are like-minded,
yes.
How have you been coping before getting a VA? Like, did you have any strategies that you think might help other people who are struggling at the moment?
Yeah. So, I mean, I am very efficient when I enter my office, which I'm sitting in now. It's just a little room in my house. The office time is very sacred. So I sit down at the desk and I'm not going to be on my phone scrolling through things. I'm going to sit down and I try not to even open my web browser. Like it's like I'm there to edit or I am there to do emails or whatever the task is. I do have the little sticky tab things on my desktop. So I have a to-do list that's just always there, like right in my face. So literally the first thing on it for today is podcast. So here we are. But then I've got emails, so I like to clear out my inbox every day. And then I go to HoneyBook and I do my HoneyBook stuff if there's anything in there. And then I have a few other things that are on the list, and it's based on what's the most important. So you guys were the most important for today.
Oh, stop it, you stop it.
I mean, we also had it scheduled.
Yeah, we were just scheduled in time-wise.
But yeah, I mean, because I have 3 kids and they all go to different schools and daycares, like 3 different locations, all kind of spaced out.
What?
Yeah. So I have to drive everyone in the morning. So it's like driving one person to high school, driving the other one to an elementary school way out in the country, because that's where she goes. And then the little one goes to daycare. So usually my partner will do that, but occasionally I'll have to. And it's like, it's about an hour and a half out of my morning. And then high school gets out at 2:00. So I only have until like from 9:30ish until 2:00 to work.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
God.
I think I've learned, because of being a mother and because of like having that work-life balance, as we all like to call it, I've learned that I have to be extremely efficient when I sit down at this desk.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be working in the evening. I don't want to be away from my family at that point. So yeah, I don't know if that's useful advice or tips.
It's certainly for people who don't have kids. They're probably thinking, I never want kids.
Yeah, no kidding.
It is hard. You're like,
but just also being very diligent with my editing. So as I'm going through Lightroom, like the culling process, if you're not using an AI culling tool, which I'm going to try and start using, I'm going to see how that goes.
Okay.
We'll see. I'm pretty fast with it at this point. But you have to be so, you can't hem and haw between 2 images that are almost virtually the same. Like the client will never know. Choose the one that makes you feel something, move on. Just go,
Yes.
Yeah.
Going back to the marketing, you said you half-arsed Pinterest. So what, thinking of like wedding clients, how are you sort of marketing and attracting your clients? Where are they finding you?
Yeah. So the majority, I do keep track of that. I really like data. So for someone who's more creative minded, I love data and I love seeing all the, like I go into my Instagram insights all the time because I just find it fascinating. And I really love that. And I used to love when Google Webmaster or Google Analytics would actually show like where in the world people were on your website. I don't think they do that anymore, but it was so cool. I'd be like, wow, someone in England is on my website. But I do get most of my inquiries through Instagram, as far as my contact form is showing me. I used to get a lot through SEO, through Google, but not so much anymore. And I think that's okay. Like I think the fact that it's Instagram makes sense. It's kind of become a millennial app and most of my clients are millennials. So it would make sense, right? I think the Googlers of the internet are kind of maybe even a little bit older. And then the TikTokers are a little bit younger. So it seems that my people are on Instagram. Yeah, you've at least got a decade of clients there before you get sold that you need to learn
for sure
Right?
TikTok and then get clients from that pool. Yeah.
It's okay. I'll hire my daughter to do all of that work at that point. It'll be fine. Yeah. But yeah, I think most of it is that. And then a lot of word of mouth. Like there's a ton of word of mouth inquiries that come in, which is really lovely. Yeah.
Is that more for, I mean, I don't want to say local weddings, but I mean like Canada, like easy, like internal.
Yeah,
flight.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's usually word of mouth from a wedding planner, usually, or something like that, or another client. So usually more Toronto-based, Ottawa, which is our capital.
Yep.
bit of geography there for you. Yeah. But that's pretty much it.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Ashley from With Jack. I'm one of the sponsors of the Perspective podcast. With Jack helps to keep photographers in business by supporting them financially and legally if they have problems with a client or they make a mistake in their work. We've all had that fear of our CF card or our hard drive failing and losing important photos. You can find out more at withjack.co.uk. Head over there and find out how we can help you be a confident creative.
We have talked about the trend of editorial stuff, but you do have a number of different styles that you tend to shoot, and we've talked about the documentary and stuff. Yeah. How would you describe your style as you kind of put it out into the world, and how would you strike a balance between, the trending editorial style with the documentary? Like how do you balance the two different styles?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if, so for a really long time, I always thought that you had to choose one and you had to be that one, right? It was like, okay, like, well, am I documentary photographer, or am I, the like light and airy film photographer, or am I, the looks like film photographer with all the grain and the desaturated greens, or am I like there's just all these things that we had to choose between. And finally I was like, I don't really want to like jump into any of these boxes per se. Like I want to kind of be a blend of a whole bunch. And so I realized that my influences have been obviously the cinematic elements, like film and cinema has been such a huge influence in my life. And it continues to be an influence in my life. Like I will watch a movie the night before every wedding, and I make sure that it's a movie that has really beautiful cinematography, because I do believe that helps. It's like, again, the environment that we're in really reflects what we end up doing. And so, yeah, movies. So cinematic has been one of my sort of keywords. Also, I really love old, this is going to sound so weird, but 90s perfume ads, the black and white, Calvin Klein, or it's like usually models, they're on a beach and there's like, they've got sand all over their bodies and it's just so romantic and it's always black and white. It's those ads. I loved those. Even in like the 90s when I wasn't into photography, I loved those. And it's kind of got that Peter Lindbergh vibe as well, which I love Peter Lindbergh. Like his film work is beautiful. So those kind of tie in, and then the storytelling. So it's like emotional, cinematic storytelling. And that's kind of how I describe my style. So it doesn't really fit into any of the boxes, really. Yeah,
I get that. I also understand that draw to the perfume ads. And most recently, like fashion brands have started into incorporating video to show off their collections. Yeah. And I really love Zara at the moment. Like their little,
I'll have to check them out.
Their little films that they do are delightful. Just delightful.
Are they? Is it on their Instagram?
Probably.
I think so.
Probably.
I think you
probably.
followed them on our account.
Have I? Yeah.
Okay.
But they're quite good. For kind of that, how do you put a narrative into clothes? You know what I mean? Like, but there's
they're beautiful,
right? They're amazing, and they all look different as well.
Yeah,
but I really like them. But the perfume ads actually, very much so. We actually took inspiration a few years back. You're laughing, aren't you?
Yeah.
So we took inspiration from, I think it was Sauvage. Not 90s, but it had Johnny Depp playing a guitar and stuff. And I was like, great.
I remember that
I
one.
really like this ad. And I really liked, I think it was Walker's whiskey. Johnny Walker's whiskey had a story of two brothers, and they were going up the sky, and then at the end of it, one of the brothers would disappear, and the other guy would like open an urn and pour his ashes into the wind on the cliffs of Skye. And I thought, man, this is lovely. This is what I want elopements to be like. And so we went out before we started doing elopements, and we made this video of Greg and I on a boat by waterfalls, like drinking whiskey by the fire.
Whoa.
And we got this guy from California to do a real Scottish accent. and funnily enough, if you listen to the podcast, that voice is the same guy who did the narrative for the Cinemate video that we did. And
that's so cool.
Jennifer, like, I was so chuffed with this video. I thought, man, these guys they look cool until 1 year.
Just recently.
Just recently. A couple. Did they book?
I can't remember. I'll need to check.
I'm pretty sure there was a couple, and they booked us. And they booked us on the video. But not how cool the video looked. Is because of our sense of humor. They thought it was a funny...
Oh, like they thought it was like a spoof.
We thought,
we
think they thought it was a spoof, which, I mean, I'm totally fine with, to be honest. That's hilarious. But at the time, I was like, oh, that's not what I intended.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I love that.
So it's got two tones for me now, that video. It's like, oh, on the one hand, I feel like it does a good job of being cool and pushing out the brand. On the other hand, it's just funny.
Oh, I love it. And I wonder too, like if the music would change that in any way, because it's like, have you seen those videos where they recut trailers to look like a different genre of film? Like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yes.
And
I love it.
they make Mrs. Doubtfire look like a horror movie. Like I wonder if you put different music over top of that, of your trailer, how that might come across.
Yeah.
That's so good.
It definitely would change the tone. I remember it was
no doubt.
Like there's drone shots and dark weather, very rainy on Skye. There's just this kind of like low rumbling tones for the music, and I was like, wow, this is so. Obviously, I went too much into the serious tone that it became.
Wow, does this still exist online?
Oh God, I don't know. Does it?
Should do somewhere. Well,
you know, I'm digging into your Vimeo right now. It's got to be on Vimeo.
It'll be on Vimeo. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
it's
sure
always where we find the hidden stuff that no one wants to show the world.
Oh, I forgot that was online.
Wait, is it the one that says the very top one? Films for the enamored and adventurous?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the #1 video on your Vimeo.
Is it?
Yeah, it's right at the very top.
On the top. See, I'm so proud of it.
Look at you. Wow. Oh, scanning.
Yeah, we're on a boat.
This is the smoke. There's some smoke in it. Ooh, the water is actually quite beautiful. The boat.
Oh, wait till I get the axe
who's
out.
tying the? Okay, yeah, you've got an axe in it. Wow.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay.
There's nothing more manly than chopping wood in a forest.
Oh wow, it's raining. It's like you guys you will do anything to get the shot. This is great.
I think it might be the chopping wood scene that people find funny because
I can chop wood.
You're not the most manly.
Oh yeah, there's the axe. Oh, here it is. Whoa. My God, you guys, this is great.
I can't believe I'm hearing what I just heard, Jennifer. Craig just said I'm not the most manly of men. How bloody dare you?
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I will say that I think if you had a beard in that video, it would have been more effective. I think you needed a full beard.
Yeah.
I know.
To really like get the
Lumberjack.
chopping wood.
Yeah.
I was disappointed to see you didn't have facial hair.
I know. I'm sorry. I know. It took me a long time to work up the courage to have some facial hair. So. Anyway, talking about inspiration, like you mentioned, putting on a movie before a wedding. Like, what would be your go-to inspiration directors, or just what are your favorite films that you watch and think, hell yeah, I'm now in the mood to create something?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like, I don't know if I can ever pinpoint like a #1 film or director. I think that's pretty challenging. There are certain directors that when I find out they're doing a new movie, I'm like, okay, I'm ready. But I recently 4 nights ago, I watched the movie Tar. Have you seen it?
I've heard about it, but I've never watched it.
I don't think
it's black and white, isn't it?
No, it's not.
It?
It's Kate Blanchett is the lead in it, and it's so beautiful. It had everything I needed in a film. And then I went and shot that session the next day with the postcards, and I felt like I was in the movie because I had classical music playing during the entire shoot. That's another thing that really helps with establishing emotion and creating emotion. Manipulating sort of the feelings in the room is having music playing and choosing music that really, is going to pull the emotion that you want from the couple. So the whole movie is about a conductor. Yeah. Lydia Tarr. She's this conductor, and she conducts these orchestras, and she's extremely famous. And there's a lot of talk on, the power hierarchy in that world, or just in general, as well as cancel culture. Like, it's a really cool movie with a lot of great subtext.
Yeah.
But the way it's filmed is just beautiful, and the music and like everything about it is just stunning. So it was cool. Like, when I saw the images after, I was like, yep, obviously I watched that movie. Like, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. You know what I get a sense when I watch this trailer is the fact that nothing's on a gimbal. So what great inspiration, because gimbals are everywhere right now for wedding filmmaking, but everything is on sticks. Like, every shot is held. There's no movement.
It's a solid, well-framed shot.
Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, that shot of her conducting is beautiful. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very powerful. And then, so I was on this kick of watching movies with obsessive main characters. I really love.
Have you watched Whiplash?
That's the movie I watched. The following night, I watched Whiplash, and I was like, good. "This is amazing! Yeah. Oh my god!" Like, at the end, I had full body chills, all over. It was so good, and it was such a great flip from the movie the night before, like seeing the movie of the obsession of the conductor the night before, and then seeing the obsession of the drummer the night after. It was and the conductor as well.
Yeah.
But it was just such a great back-to-back viewing experience. It was really cool.
Whiplash is one of my favorite movies. I'm a drummer, so I love that kind of focus around a player. But then there's that kind of like the teacher-student relationship, and even so, I don't even know if they remade the movie, but there are scenes that they shot before they had the budget to do the whole thing, and even the color grading is completely different.
Really?
Yeah. So the Whiplash is very orange, and it's kind of got that kind of like really kind of burnt look. Yeah. In the first one they did, and the scenes are shot almost identical. The coloring is blue, and it's really interesting why they chose certain color tones. And
I love that. That's so cool. Color theory is like a whole other.
Honestly, I know. I love color theory, especially in actual films. I find it really hard to apply color theory to weddings. But I'm getting there. I'm getting more brave, I think.
Yeah, I think on a very like basic level though, even just like warmth versus coolness, like that there's so much emotion in that, right? And I think most moments call for a little bit more warmth, and then other ones, maybe they're a little bit more isolated and cold. Yeah. Even just starting there and just like meditating on that is a good place for others to start. Not you guys. You guys know what you're doing.
Do we? I don't know.
I mean, that trailer really sold me on you. So.
Oh yeah, well, we've got great humor. Great humor. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we've been talking about all the creative aspects of photography, but one thing that photographers hate or love to hate is the group photos at a wedding. So why do all photographers hate that part?
Oh, I mean, why do we hate it? Okay, so maybe partly because it's just a little uncreative. It's a little soulless. It's like, what do you do? It's the same thing every single time for the most part. Also, big groups are hard if you're in a space that maybe doesn't have a lot of, two people are easy to find a little nook to pose. If it's a very bright, sunny, crazy day.
Yeah.
But a group of 20 is a little bit more difficult. So that sucks. But also just maybe the dynamics of all the people, because your couple, you guys have the relationship, but you don't have the relationship with any of the other people there. So there's this weird disconnect.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of it. Wrangling people, especially if there's a lot of alcohol involved, that can get really obnoxious. But I will say, there are some of the most beautiful moments that can take place during those family portraits, especially when it's like the more intimate, like just the bride and her father, I try to leave space for that. And I try not to just rush through it in this, delegating and aggressive manner. I try to slow down when it comes to those images, or the bride with her grandmother, or, whatever it is. And I'll even slow down the tone of my voice, and I'll just breathe a little bit and talk a little quieter, and just say, okay, just take a little moment, just the two of you. And it's just, you slow down, like the entire tempo just changes. And then, you get back into a big group shot and you talk a little bit louder. All right, guys, let's go. Let's get energy. Here we go. And then you slow it down again. Like it's like a song. It's like a story. It's quite fun to be able to kind of manipulate the emotions in that way and direct how you want people to be in that moment. I think we have more power than we realize that we have in these situations.
You're the conductor.
Yeah. Absolutely.
God.
Yeah.
Thing of beauty. Do you have any tips for people out there that might struggle with the idea of even wrangling guests? Like, any tips for the group section of the day?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so if there's a wedding planner, that's definitely a wedding planner job. I would make sure that that's something that the planner is doing. And I'll kind of just check in and say, like, do you have a list that you're going to read out? Like, I'll just kind of put it on them and just say, I'll be there to take the photos, but did you want to just read out the names so we can get through it quickly?
Yeah.
And I kind of speak their language because they want efficiency ultimately. So if I can get on that same page, that works.
Okay.
Oftentimes too, there's always a really keen bridesmaid who's just like, if you need help with anything, let me know. And they're just so ready and eager to just, they're like, she's been my best friend since grade 5. I'm going to do everything I can to make this day perfect for her. And so she is the bridesmaid that I'll say, hey, can you do me a quick favor? Can you go get mom, dad, brother, sister? Like, can you just wrangle these people for me? And she's like, yep, on it. Like, there's always those people, right?
Yeah.
So
it's always a bridesmaid as well. Groomsmen are bloody useless.
Never a groomsman. Never, ever, ever a groomsman. But I'll just kind of like sprinkle myself around right after the ceremony. If that's when we're going to be doing family photos, I'll go around and I'll let everybody know. So I'll go over to mom and dad of the bride side and I'll say, hey guys, we're going to do family portraits, 10 minutes just over there in the garden. And then I'll go over to the other set of parents. Hey guys, 10 minutes over in the garden. Just grab everyone that you need. Yeah. And usually the parents are going to be really good at grabbing who they need as well. So yeah, it's like you're just a little fairy that flies around, make sure everyone comes, and then you get it done.
Are you good with names, or do you even need to use names for wrangling people?
I do use names when it comes to the parents. I never say, mom, dad. I always learn their names. Yeah. Because I think it's important, and I think people really value when their name is being used. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you guys would agree. It's like when people say your name, it's a really beautiful connection, whether we realize it or not. So I always try to know the parents' names, and that can be tricky after 500 weddings. There's a lot of names in my head. A lot of names. But I try to think of like an actor or a celebrity with that name and just like embed that into. So as soon as they say their name, I try to do some sort of reference to that name. So if they say, "Oh, my name is Jennifer," I think, okay, Jennifer Lopez, Jennifer Aniston. I just like go through a couple names in my head.
I did the same thing.
And it's great. It works really, really well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they'll send a list beforehand and I can just review it if I need to.
Oh, even reading names on a list, I'm terrible at. On the way to a wedding, I'm like, Greg, couple's names, let's go. Right, yes.
Oh my God.
Right, okay, I need to figure out a way to remind myself of who they are. And so for that Mull wedding, it was Corey and Nicole, and I was like, Corey, Slipknot singer. He always wrote him out. Okay, so weird, Corey, Slipknot. easy.
Yeah.
Nicole. There's a little bit more Nicoles. I know a lot of Nicoles. Nicole Kidman. Nicole this.
Yeah.
Nicole, and that was me. Like as soon as I said Nicole
Absolutely.
Kidman, for some reason, it just
Yeah.
there's certain celebrities or certain names that just kind of like flow through your brain for some reason, and that was one of them. And then as soon as I get that, it's good.
Yeah, it's an association. It's so useful. Yeah.
Celebrities.
Very
they are
cool.
good for certain things. There you go.
Certain
There you go.
things. Yeah.
Certain things. Do you have any like artistic approach to group shots? Because I know certain photographers, they like to take their time. They do like, I've seen like some amazing, like Fire and Ice do some great video portraits. What am I saying?
There seems to be quite a few more recently that do the whole sort of almost like royal family style where they're all sitting down, standing up, and it's more of a scene rather than a group photo, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I don't tend to do that with family, and maybe it's just because of the weddings that I'm shooting. I don't have the space to do that. There aren't chairs handy to grab and use, nor is there really the scene that can hold that energy. Usually we're in fields or we're in, gardens and things like that, and it just doesn't really tie to that. If I was in the type of setting that could hold that, then I definitely would. Or if it was a request, like if someone said, I want my family photos to look like the cover of Vanity Fair, then absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would just make sure. So, if that was to happen and we were in a garden and they were like, yes, we want Vanity Fair, I might encourage them or encourage the wedding planner to get a backdrop, like a really beautiful backdrop that we can have to kind of hold that moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think they would get lost in the background of fields and trees, and we have a lot of nature here. So,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Just managing those expectations. But no, I think, I think for the most part, the artistry comes from the emotion and getting those quiet moments between bride and dad, and then that's a black and white, and then camera aware, smiling at the camera, that's color. And then when they snuggle in or, he starts to cry, black and white, and just, do it that way.
Yeah. Not for just what was that saying? If it's shite, black and white, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you heard that before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
we use the phrase, we do, if it's a terrible photo, you make it black and white and call it art. That's like the phrase. Make it black and white, call it art.
Yeah.
Anything can be, if it's blurry, if it's out of focus, just make it black and white, call it art. You know?
I love that. On your website, you mention really liking floating around during cocktail hour and just snapping away. I always find cocktail hour is such an interesting part of the day because there's a lot happening, but at the same time, not a lot is happening. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people talking and eating and drinking. What's your approach to cocktail hour to trying? Like, is that a time of day where you think I can be kind of creative here and you stretch your creative muscle? Or do you go, hey, I really like emotions. I'm going to try and just watch out for people hugging and kissing or smiling, or there's always that person who loves to dance when a band's on, or like, what's your approach?
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of a combination of both, actually. It's definitely looking for emotion. I always say that like my camera, which is right here, like the end of it is like this, it's like a magnet for laughter. It's a magnet to tears. So anytime I'm in a room and it's cocktail hour and there's a group of people laughing, I'm like, turn around and just like shoot.
Yeah.
And same with, just any sort of like, when you hear almost the sounds, it's like the volume will rise in a certain area of the room. And that's where my camera turns to kind of document what's happening. But then, playing with that and looking for the emotion, looking for the story, and then also the creative, more interesting angles and reflections and, uses of light. Or maybe I'll just stalk one particular hallway because the light is just so magical. And I know as soon as someone walks by with a glass of champagne, it's going to be the most beautiful shot ever. So playing with stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So that's interesting because I wonder how many photographers out there do think of an image even before it's happened. because of like light.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, so.
But then you get to the point where you've committed to waiting for it and nothing's happening, and you're like, I've committed. I need to wait longer.
I know.
And it's how long do you wait?
Honest to God, it's like, and you know, as soon as you walk away, it's going to happen.
Exactly.
It's like
Yeah.
my parents play the lottery, and they have been playing the same number since the day I was born. And
man.
you know that they can't miss a week. If they miss a week, those are the numbers that are going to be the $50 million draw. And it's like the same situation. It's like, I can't walk away. I'm committed. Like as soon as I walk away, someone's going to walk through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that just reminds me of again going back to Mull when there's a shot. It must have been like 1 to 2 minutes long of me holding a shot of like a doorstep, waiting for the mum who's like 2 steps back just to walk through the door, and she's looking outside. She's just not walking through the door. And I'm holding this shot for ages, and I have to give up.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh man, she's gonna walk through the door as soon as I put my camera down. She didn't, thank goodness. But
God,
It's
and
always in the
isn't
back
that such a shame? It's like we sometimes have to mourn the loss of the photos and the video clips that never actually came to life. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's like, let's just say a prayer for those right now.
The ones that
Bless
could have
them
been.
all. Yeah.
Normal people just will never understand.
No, and I think it goes back to that obsession with movies about obsessive people. It's like we get that. We understand. It's like you probably sat and stalked that spot for so long. A new photographer would walk on the scene and they'd be like, "What the hell are you doing? You know, like why are you doing? There's so much happening over here."
Yeah.
But it's just this obsession. It's kind of beautiful. I love it.
Although you can get to a point where someone outside of your own vision, like if you're holding a shot, this has happened before, someone catches you and they come over and like, what's happening? I'm like, I know this looks really weird, but I'm just waiting for a moment
waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, and then suddenly there's a little crowd around me, and now I'm like, well, the moment's not going to happen now. The moment's gone.
Oh my God.
Oh man,
I love that.
Oh.
That's so funny.
Have you you were talking about how you listen to the environment to kind of get a sense of where your camera should go. Have you ever been like not in the vicinity, but you've heard something going off and you do the grab and run? Are you familiar with the grab and run?
Yeah. Oh my God, 100%. It's usually when, back in the day, there used to be this thing here. I don't know if it's the same there, where wedding planners would put you in a room outside of the venue to eat your dinner.
Oh yeah, that still happens here.
It can do, yeah.
It was bizarre. I request now, it's in my contract that I have to be seated in the same room as the event. Otherwise, you're not going to get things photographed, because I'm not going to be like listening at the door, eating my meal, wondering if something is like, it just doesn't make any sense. And so I don't do it to be a diva, but I do it because I want to make sure that I'm documenting everything. Yeah. But it's happened where speeches will start, or someone goes up and does a toast and they do something crazy, like they start dancing, and I'm like running with like food in my mouth and my camera. I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel
that's terrible.
It's always around speeches for us. Yeah. You know, whether or not, like, you've had the communication with the planner, you've said to the person who's speaking, I'll come and mic you, just if we'll need 5 minutes. And suddenly someone else starts introducing them, and you're like, oh my God, I've got 3 cameras to switch on. I've got a light to go on. I've got to mic I've got to turn the backup mic on. I've got to mic them. And you're thinking,
oh my God.
I like, there, even this year, there has been a moment where the speeches have started and I've had to scramble, and it was a small wedding, so I was okay to do this, but I stopped the bridesmaid and I was like, hang on, wait, in front of everyone, and I just popped I popped a very quick microphone on her, and I was like talking to my second, like, just switch it on, just go. Yeah. And it's just, there was no light, and it happened as it was, but sometimes these things just happen.
Yeah. There was another one recently where the best man wound us up, because he said, I'm going to do another impromptu speech. And I was like, right, I'll mic you up then, and just let us know before you do it. And then a couple of minutes later, there's this tap on the microphone, and we all went running through. And he just looked up and went, got you. You bastard.
Oh my God.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
what
I
he
hadn't-
did, he did get us. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about how much you guys need to be setting up before every speech.
Yeah.
Every moment like that. It's like for me, it's very easy. I just grab my camera and I run. And sometimes the settings are a little bit off because I was outside during the last photo or something. But like, it's pretty easy. Wow.
I mean,
You guys have so much.
We have a portfolio of like elopements, but also really big weddings. And sometimes, you know, we'll be in drinks reception and it'll be Greg's job to mic everyone. And he'll have this, like it happened just recently where he had a big list of names and like 150 people in front of him. And he's got the name Jane. I've got to mic up Jane. Fuck Jane.
Oh God.
Like, how do we, like, you're going to the planner and they're busy. So it's like, right, can you show us where Jane is? And like 150 people or whatever. It's like, oh, she's somewhere over there. So where you head in that direction. You're like, Jane, are you Jane? Have you seen Jane?
Oh God.
Jane. Yeah. About 10
Wow.
times because you got the big list. Oh, man. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting off topic. Let's skip a couple of questions here. Oh, yes, actually. So this is definitely a photographer's question, and I've always wondered about this. When you're shooting speeches or you're shooting someone talking, when do you push the shutter button so that you don't have a face shape that doesn't make sense? Like in a still, you know, like when you see people moving, you're not really paying attention to all their face moments, and then suddenly you have to pick when that shutter goes down and you've locked that moment in. Like, do you have a process in your head, like a time, or like help those photographers out there?
Or do you just shoot in burst mode?
Or do you just shoot in burst mode? I don't know.
I mean, I do shoot a lot of photos, and there's a lot that I would remove and just, I'm like, oh, that's a terrible expression. That's a terrible expression. And I'm very diligent about removing those photos. I don't want people to see like their face is looking weird. As someone with big expressions, like I know that when I'm photographed as I'm talking, I can look insane sometimes. So I really like to do people a favor. Like if you were to pause this video at any point, like I guarantee I will look terrifying. Like I don't photograph well. But I wait for moments where there's laughter, where they take a pause, where they're about to cry, you know. Usually through most speeches, when they're holding the mic, they'll be saying something like how I am right now. And there's these moments just during conversation where they pause and they're still in a smile because they're speaking out to an audience. So I try to grab smiles, laughter, cries. Even if it's an ugly cry, it's still a cry, so it still counts. Black and white, call it art. Just, you know, that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, okay.
And then I'm doing a few photos of the person speaking, but the majority of the photos I'm taking are of reactions from family members, couple. You know, I'm just kind of ferrying around the room and just capturing all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
So,
okay. It's something I've always kind of been intrigued by because as video people, we're not waiting for that moment where it's like we have to capture a sense of what's being said or
the whole movement.
Yeah. I will say kind of in the same lines is that when the couple is watching the person speaking, I will encourage them, if I notice during the first speech that they're eating their first course while they're watching and reacting and they've got food in their mouth and they're chewing is the worst. Like talking is one thing in an image, but chewing is just like, you don't want images like that. So I'll just like quietly come over to them and just be like, hey guys, during the next speech, just put your forks down because I promise you'll love your photos so much more if you're not chewing when we get the reactions. And they're like, oh my God, we didn't even think about it. Yeah. So just like little things like that, I'll kind of, step in and just curate it a little bit.
Just food, or is drinking okay?
Drinking's fine. Drinking's usually quite elegant. Yeah. Especially if you have nice champagne glasses. But I'm very aware of that too. So I like sort of like holding the glass about to sip. Like here, I've got a coffee mug here. So like this sort of like you know, like you're about to, and the lips are just almost pursed, but as soon as you're like this, it looks kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that, you know? Like when the mouth is all around it, it's a bit weird or sexual. I don't know.
That's just like, when you're with a couple, like the moment before the kiss is way better than the actual kiss.
Yeah.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the angle at which they're drinking, like if they're from the side, that can look really beautiful, but straight on with a see-through glass, and all you see is like this weird face. It's not a good look.
Now we've got the still frame for this episode.
I hope so.
Oh my goodness. We are popping off, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh man, so hard. I love it.
Also, if you're just listening to this as a podcast, go onto YouTube. This is great. I want to move into the evening reception right now. I want to talk about your approach to capturing a party. Because there's loads of different ways to approach the party, especially when there's not really a narrative, or you correct me, Jennifer. I would say there's not really a narrative. It's just carnage and making the carnage look cool and fun and making them remember the probably the few memories that they've got left from that night. So what's your approach to photographing the party?
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, so the first thing that I make sure I do is I will only shoot it with a 35 or a 24 as far as like party reception, dance floor footage. I will never shoot it with anything bigger than, I'll never shoot it on a 50 or an 85. I'll never stand in the sidelines just shooting things from, the corner. I immerse myself so fully onto the dance floor. I'm usually dancing with everyone. I'm usually, like right in the moment, experiencing it with them. And I will get low. I'll shoot up. If there's a dance circle and there's people dancing, I will be in the circle, kind of shooting the perspective of the person dancing and all the people around. At that point, I feel almost invisible. And so I don't feel like, oh my God, they're gonna see me in the middle. Oh my God. At this point, people have forgotten about you. They're not looking at you. They don't care that you're there. It's like you can be anywhere at that point. Yeah. And it's fine. You can be laying on the floor, which I've done before. I've had a group like men huddling and singing, and they were all huddling, and I was like, I can't get a good angle of this. So I was like, screw this. And I crawled through one guy's legs and I laid on the floor shooting up at them while they're in their huddle. I was just like, I'm allowed to do this. They're paying me to be here. But it's just, really high energy. I make sure that I have a coffee when I'm eating my dinner, because that coffee gives me, just this spike of energy. And I just... I'm an animal on the dance floor. I just get right into it. I usually encourage people to do things too. If the party isn't really popping off, I will grab I have been known to grab someone's tie off of them, or like a shawl off of a woman, and I'll create a limbo, limbo line.
Oh,
and I'll
nice.
just be like, let's limbo. It's like the high school drunk version of me kind of comes out on the dance floor, and I'm kind of an instigator. Like there was one guy, it was the dad, and someone was trying to do up his button because he had too many buttons undone, and I was like, no, take it off. And it was great. And then he did. And the dad, the father of the bride, was ripping his shirt off. And I was like, yeah, just cheering him on. And also, I will add, I don't drink. I've been sober now for almost 5 years. So this is just my pure energy.
Oh my God. No one is safe with you at a party. Amazing.
No. I'm definitely a pusher. I'm an instigator. So I think that helps. But I will say, if you're shy, if you don't have the Gemini energy that I tend to have, still, you can get in there. You can, kind of meander around with a wider lens, 35 or 24, and you can get in there and you can still kind of, just shimmy through and get those energetic shots. You don't have to be a maniac like I am.
Do you guys have, do you shoot a lot of Ceilidh dancing, or is there a Canadian equivalent?
I don't even know what Ceilidh dancing is.
Oh, Ceilidh, Scottish dancing.
Canadian barn dance. That's the name of a Ceilidh song.
Hang on, have we just met a Canadian who doesn't know what Ceilidh dancing is?
I mean, I know what I thought a Ceilidh was like a bar, sort of like pub type place, isn't it? Or like a party, isn't it? Am I wrong?
It's Scottish Highland dancing, essentially.
Oh,
like in groups or with two, if you've got a partner and you're doing Highland dancing. It's kind of like, what would be
it's our version of line dancing.
Yeah, our version of line dancing.
Oh
or
God. Okay,
something.
so yeah, we have some things. I feel like, God, North Americans are really lame with their dancing. Like we kind of suck.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have line dancing. I very rarely see that. I think that's more of like a Southern, more like American kind of thing.
Okay.
We don't see much of that here. We just see a lot of, it's like top 40 music playing on the dance floor and people just like going like this, it's like the shimmy back and forth. I don't know. It's pretty lame. There's a lot of, like the 1960s, like when you hear the Beatles twist and shout, you see all the older men on the dance floor that are doing the twist, we see a lot of that.
Okay.
Yeah, just pretty basic stuff.
Yeah.
The Macarena comes up a time or two, unfortunately.
So nothing like nothing majorly group focused in terms of dancing.
Well, the song Shout, Shout by the Inslee Brothers. You make me want to shout.
Yeah. Oh, that song.
That song. That is a classic wedding song. We see that at every wedding, and it's always a group thing. And, and it's like everyone's getting low. And then you get louder now. That's always a hyped up song.
Yeah, okay. No, the reason I ask, because there is an art form to diving through people who are arm locked together in a wall of people that are like three walls deep, and you want to be, say you're changing your lenses and you want to be in the middle of the circle, and you're like, oh shit, I've got to get through three people's worth of wall here. There's an art form to it.
There absolutely is, yeah. And we see that with, there's certain Indian weddings and Jewish weddings that I've shot where we do see that. Like the hora at a Jewish wedding is just like bonkers.
Chaos.
It is so much fun. Those are my favorite dances to shoot. They're so fun.
Yeah.
And that's where you got everyone and they're circling, and it's like the same thing. It's like 3 different circles and they're going in opposite directions, and then there's people up in the air, and it's just incredible. I love it.
Yeah, I love that. That wedding I was talking about with the loads of speeches and the names, they were American and Jewish, and they were coming over a Scottish wedding, and so they had all the Jewish customs and all the dances mixed with the Ceilidh, and it was just so much fun.
Yeah, it was wild.
Oh,
I love it.
Yeah. You mentioned 2 specific focal lengths there. What is in your camera bag? Like, what are you shooting on?
Oh yeah,
cameras and lenses.
Oh, it's not the D60 still, is it?
Oh God, no! But it is a little bit embarrassing. So I shoot on the D4, So this particular body is newer. I bought a used D4 recently, but I had my other D4 since 2012, and it was. Back in the day, it was the pro camera back in 2012. But then the D5 came out, and then, even the D850 came out, and there's all these other cameras that really surpassed it. As far as megapixels and even video capabilities, it's a 16 megapixel camera. Like it's not big.
Yeah.
But I love it so much, and I cannot let go of it. Like I love it. And I've tried all the other cameras, and they just don't give me the same look to the images as my D4.
Yeah.
That's so refreshing.
I like
by
that,
the way.
yeah.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do love tech talk, but like, that's so nice to hear that you've got a piece of kit and it works for you. And those cameras, that I was just having a look at them. I was like, oh yeah, those Nikons were workhorses.
Yeah.
Like honestly, they keep going for years. So it doesn't. If you love the images from it.
Yep.
Fuck yes.
Yeah,
very,
absolutely.
very
I mean, dude, even like the shutter rating on this is unbelievable. Like, so most Nikon cameras, it's like the shutter is rated for like, I don't know, 150,000 clicks or something. This one is like 350,000, 400,000. Like, it's so much higher. And I'm not even a tech person, but that's pretty mind-blowing. My last one, which I retired last year, was up to 800,000 clicks.
What?
And still functioned perfectly. But I was like, this is terrifying. I need a new one.
That is incredible, by the way. Holy shit.
They're great cameras. Like, I cannot say enough good things about them. And I'm not sponsored by Nikon. Like, this is just, I'm just happy. I mean, I tried to get sponsored. They won't take me for some reason.
They said your camera's too old.
Right?
They would probably, they probably would want to give you a new camera and you'd be like, no.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by mirrorless. Like, I'm intrigued by the new ones. I don't know. I just really like this camera. It's beautiful. Paired with the 35, that's what I shoot 90% of my images with.
Yep.
It's just the 35 1.4. I've had this since 2012 as well, and it's a beautiful lens. I have the 50 and the 85 and a 24, but majority is 35. That's
Can you hold it up again?
yeah.
It's the size of your head.
I know, it's so big. I have like really nice tone defined arms because of this camera. It's great. But it's beautiful, isn't it? Look at that. I feel really pro.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, the extra, I remember having the Canon, what was it?
The 1DX?
The 1DX Mark II.
Yep.
And it was the first camera. It was that alloy body with the battery grip and the built in, and you held it and you felt like you were holding something you could kill somebody with. It was heavy duty, just like those Nikons. And and now that we shoot on the Sonys, it's just you don't have this. It's not. I mean, it's nice and light, and that's nice because I'm getting old.
Yeah, it's funny how we don't care. Like, when I first started, I remember showing up to my first wedding with my little Nikon D60 and a little, like, I think it was like an 18 to, I don't even know, 18 to something lens, 105 or something. But like F4, you couldn't go lower than F4. And I remember showing up and I was like, okay, I'm going to shoot this wedding. And one of the Uncle Bobs at the wedding had like a massive camera. And I was like, and I was so intimidated. And so I remember I went home and I bought a battery grip to like make the camera look bigger. I bought a huge lens. It was like a 70 to 200, which I didn't need for doing the type of wedding work I was doing. And I bought a flash, and I had my flash on all day, even if I didn't need it. And I bought one of those Gary Fong light spheres. Do you remember those? It looks like a Tupperware container.
Yep.
Yes.
And I put it on the top of my camera. And then I remember like holding this beast of a camera. And I was like, yeah, I'm legit now. But I didn't really know how anything functioned or what the hell I was doing. Like, it was such a fake it till you make it moment for me. And then I stripped it all down and was like, I don't need any of this shit. What am I doing? I thought at one point I needed a wheelie bag full of all my gear. And now I have one little bag, my camera. My backup camera is a Fuji. It's an X-T3, just as like a backup, just in case something goes wrong. Also, I like to get a few video clips here and there just for reels, staying relevant on social media.
Yeah.
Are
you only shooting vertical though? Is that
for videos?
Yeah.
I am now. Yeah. Yeah. I actually. So at the last wedding, hold on a sec here. I've got a different Fuji because my partner has the X-T3. I've got the X Pro here as another backup.
Oh yeah.
So at the last wedding I shot, I wanted to get video of the couple coming down the aisle because there was no videographer. And I didn't have a second shooter. So I literally shot it like this. So I did video. So I had the video of the Fuji underneath and I was clicking as they walked down the aisle. And I have a great video clip. It's the second reel in on my reels. And it's just a quick little clip, but I was able to simultaneously do both and it felt so good.
Yeah.
I probably looked insane.
There's someone else who does that. Is it Sam Hurd or is it Taylor Jackson? They do the hybrid package and they hold the cameras at the same time. And I'm like, that is such a skill.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I know there is a little camera you can just put on the hot shoe. Like you can put it up here and it's it's called like an Instacam. it will video what you're doing. I don't know if the quality is as nice. I don't know.
I don't think so. It's more like an action cam, isn't it? It's more like
like a
GoPro type style. Yeah. Awesome. Look, so we're running out of time. In fact, I'm looking at the time and going, oh shit. Let's do show and tell as the last section of the podcast. So, Jennifer, just so I can double check, you can see the TV screen here.
I can see the TV screen, yes.
Wonderful. Okay, Greg.
What one do you want?
Anyone.
This one.
So I've picked 3 or 4 images. I think it's 4 from your website. Ones that I like, and ones that I just wanted to hear the story of and what your thought process was.
Sure.
So this image here is a girl on a piece of driftwood on the beach with a ton of birds. Tell me about this image.
So that is one of my friends, and it wasn't a wedding image, although she kind of looks bridal with that dress, which is why I still have it in my portfolio.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah, so she is a musician. She's a really talented singer. Her name is Kate Sir, and she needed photos for her new album that she was creating.
Okay.
And so the album was called Selkie Bride, and selkies are these mermaid kind of creatures. Yep. I'm sure you know the origin story of the selkie.
There's a lot of selkies in Scotland, yes. Yeah.
I imagine, yeah. So Selkie Bride was the name of one of the songs and the name of the album. So we did this whole shoot at sunrise on the water here, and just kind of told a little story. So this was the final shot of the morning. So we were pretty much wrapping up, and I was like, oh, maybe just go stand on that driftwood. And I had an assistant with me, and she was over to the side, and there were all these seagulls just like, meandering around the shore. And I said, okay, when I say go, I want you to run from the opposite direction towards Kate and get the birds to kind of like fly into the shot. And so that's what we did. So I had Kate just stand there. The girl ran and scared the birds, which is quite cruel now that I am thinking about it and saying it out loud. I apologize to the birds. I don't think I would actually do this nowadays, but yeah, they were frightened. They flew and they just kind of swarmed like around her. So I remember I did Photoshop. I duplicated, I think, 2 of the birds, and I don't even remember which ones.
Oh, let's have a guess.
There were 2 of them. Yeah, you can guess. But I think there were 2 that were Photoshopped and duplicated.
I feel like one in...
Or I took it from... Because I had a whole sequence, right? I had like 7 images in a row, and there were some where the birds looked a little bit better.
Okay.
So I it was like a composite, like putting 2 images together kind of thing.
Yeah, okay.
So they were all there. Like all the birds were there, but I blended some of the birds from the shot before into this one, essentially. That was what happened.
So I can't remember where I got this image from. It might be on your Instagram. It might not have been. What's your thoughts on this middle line? Were you like? And I can't remember. Obviously, this isn't the. It may or may not be the full image. As in, this is the resolution that you wanted it to be exported as. Like, is that line in the original straight in through the middle? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so initially when I shot that, that was back in, I want to say 2017 that I shot that. It was quite some time ago. And back then I had a real thing for Wes Anderson, as most photographers go through their Wes Anderson phase.
Yes, yep.
And so that sort of like center weighted, symmetrical composition was really fascinating for me.
Yeah.
I also just wanted something that could stand alone as a thumbnail, because I knew that she'd want it for thumbnail purposes. So I wanted something that was quite bold, and when you shrink it down really tiny, it could still have a bit of impact. Yeah. So that was sort of the reasoning there. Yeah. Cool. I tried various different crops, and that one was the one. Also, everything back then was square. I don't know if you remember 2017 for Instagram. No one was doing. You couldn't even do a 4x5 format vertically. You could do it, but you'd have to like add a border in an alternative app, and it was a whole thing. Okay. So square posts were really big. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fair enough. It's nice to know that your thought process is on the final. The use of it. So that's quite cool. And obviously, you've obviously inspired such inspiration for the computers, since, when you go to generate an image using AI, they love birds. They fucking love birds.
Totally.
So well done. You're educating the masses.
Thank you. I'm very glad. Glad I could be of service.
Educating those bots. Okay, next one.
Oh, there we go.
So I just kind of wanted to know the story.
Yeah.
Here,
Okay. So
because-
it's fascinating to see which images you choose. Carry on.
So for they're right in the middle of the road. They're drinking
Yes.
champagne or I think it's champagne, and sorry, he is feeding her champagne, which is
Yes.
only something I've just caught. That's
Yeah.
hilarious. And they're having pizza just willy nilly in the middle of the road, but you can't tell it's in the middle of the road. Well, no, it could be in the side road. But tell me the story of this image.
I wish I had a better story than what this is. So this was part of a content day that I ran for photographers. So I set up my own story.
Okay.
Which was not a real story. I set up a story for this couple. So these are local friends of mine. I set up this whole elopement story. So this was actually on my street in front of my old house. And I had a group of 6 photographers, and the whole idea was to create conceptual stories for couples and to really dig into these stories, and then also to create a portfolio that would attract couples that would be interested in having story told a little bit more prominently with their weddings or, but also I was going through this phase of really digging into unconventional weddings. I really liked the idea of I don't want any tradition anymore.
Yeah.
So this was a few years ago. And I think we all go through this cycle. If we've been in it for longer than 10 years, we're like, oh my God, I don't want to do another cake cutting. I don't want to do, you just go through these phases. I'm out of the phase now. But yeah, this was from that. So we created this day of unconventional, do things your way kind of element. Yeah.
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 That's cool.
Yeah. And I just thought I just wanted something that looked interesting and fun. And, it's very surface level.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with surface level. In fact, I'm, having done show and tell with a few photographers, a lot of the images that they do post are things from workshops and ideas that they've had. And obviously with the notion of show what you want to attract. So,
exactly. Yeah. That was the point of that.
With the leather jacket, is this one going down that grungy? Is that off the website?
You know what?
Now?
It's not. I think there's enough elegance here, and that's actually my leather jacket. So I just was like, awesome. let's spice this up a little and give you my jacket, and just make it kind of fun because there's still an elegance to them, even though they're sitting on the road eating pizza. Then they've got champagne, so there's a lot of juxtaposition there, which I kind of like.
The question is, what's on the pizza?
God, I think it's just a cheese pizza because I didn't want to offend anyone with certain toppings.
Which offends me, Jennifer. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I know, right? I apologize.
I'm just kidding. Next image, Greg.
Oh, yeah.
This is probably my favorite image that I selected.
I love this image.
There's something so somber about it. Mm-hmm. And I love somber tones in artwork or movies. What's the story here?
Yeah, so this was an actual wedding.
Thank goodness. 'Cause if it wasn't, I'd feel cheated, Jennifer. Cheated.
Right? My whole brand is a lie. It's cap. Okay, so this bride, she is so lovely, and I don't know if you can tell from the image, but to the right of the frame there is
the dress.
Sorry, yes. To the left of her is her wedding dress, and it's actually her mother's wedding gown from the 1980s. And it was so cool. So this bride was great. She also has a background in modeling, clearly. You can kind of tell. But yeah, she was just hanging out. She had just done her hair and makeup, and she was wandering around the room. It was just this tiny little hotel room. There weren't many areas to shoot, and it just wasn't very aesthetically pleasing. But there was the dress hanging. There was this chair. She was drinking a coffee. The little the flower was on the table. It was kind of just perfect. And she ended up actually authentically sitting down there and drinking her coffee. Her shoes were sitting next to her. So there's another image that's a vertical image that you can see she's actually wearing her wedding shoes.
Oh, yeah?
So that was the only direction, and she's actually drinking the coffee in the other image. That was the only direction and guidance that I gave her, other than just like, oh my God, stay right there. You look stunning. And then I shot that, and then I said, can you actually just put your shoes on? And then she did. And then she actually intuitively just grabbed to drink the coffee. So it was just a moment, and it was one of those things where everything connected, and I stopped what was going on. It was like, stop. Like, let me get a photo of this.
Yeah.
So that was,
and I think that's, I was really hoping it was one of those moments.
Yeah.
Are there is there anything you did to help get this moment? You know, like.
Yeah. I mean, the somberness. So I will either reflect the energy in the room and sort of like chameleon into it, or I will try to manipulate it in some way. Manipulation is such a terrible word, but I'll try to influence the emotion and energy in the room. And so with this particular situation, it was just her and I think two other people in the entire room. So it was quite quiet. I don't even know if we had music playing. So everyone was kind of quiet and gentle. And I just really mimicked that and put that energy back out. I complimented her many times. I said, I don't know anyone that can pull off, a pair of Spanx like you can, because she could, she looks stunning. And I love that she's in Spanx rather than, underwear. It's boudoir, but it's not. It's so real and honest, and it's what a woman would do on a wedding day. She'd get into her Spanx, and, even the tiniest of women are still body conscious, and they're doing these things. And I don't know, it just felt really honest to me. Just quietly kind of encouraging and complimenting and guiding.
Love it.
Yeah. At the time, obviously your brain said, stop, I need to take this photo. But did you know it might be like a scroll stopper and a showpiece image at that time?
I usually know, because if it stops me in my tracks in the moment, like if it's something where I'm like, wow, or like you feel there's something that you feel in your chest when you see a moment and you're just like, holy shit, this is going to be really good. Like you feel it,
Yeah.
And so I felt it with that. Like, I think I actually audibly said, wow, like this is amazing. This is so good. And she was so good to just go along with everything and be quiet and still and gentle in that moment. It was great.
Oh, I love it.
One more?
Absolutely.
Is there?
I think there's one more. Is there?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So
I love this one.
I chose this one because at first I thought, oh, it's not a door frame, it's a mirror. I don't know why I thought it was a mirror. That doesn't really make sense. But I just liked it. It was a little bit comedic. It was is the groom looking? I think so. So the question is, again, is this a genuine moment?
Yes.
Yes.
This was a genuine moment.
Goodness.
And I didn't realize until I was actually editing the images. I had no idea. Yeah. So I don't think the groom knew. I think he was just looking down at the ground. And I think he's making sure he's not stepping on the back of her dress. I think that's what was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't even understand how that even happened now that I'm looking at her bum peeking through. But there must have been a split in her dress, like a seam or what do you call that? Where the leg can poke out. But she was lifting it and I had no idea. I was just shooting this moment of, I thought, oh, cool composition, walking through a doorway. This is beautiful. And then I got home and I edited and I was like, stop it. This is amazing. Incredible.
Yeah.
And so I asked her permission first. I sent it to her with her preview images. And I said, oh my God, I just love this image of you. Look at your sneaky little bum cheeks. And she loved it so much. Like, it's one of her favorite images too. So yeah, it was a happy accident, I guess.
Yeah. I love, obviously, because there must be thousands of these tiny little nugget moments that just disappear. We never know about them, right? But you've managed to capture this. And I was talking to Greg before you came on. I was like, I wonder how she did it.
Yeah.
Do you think she's not known, or do you think the moment's happened, she's caught it, and then she's just been, this Jennifer just asked her to whip her dress around, and she's not recreated it, but asked to move in a certain way that would recreate.
Yeah.
So it's quite nice to hear that you had no idea, and this was a
No.
genuine moment, and it's just like one of those captured in time.
Yeah,
things. I love
there's a slideshow on my website that shows it's just wedding images.
Yeah, okay.
I can't remember what page it's on, but that slideshow is all genuine, authentic moments from weddings. In my portfolio section, there's a little bit more creative. There's some of the Venus shoot. It's more conceptual stuff, but the actual wedding slideshow is genuine, authentic wedding moments. And when I do my new website, I'm going to make sure that that's more prominent on the homepage so that people can see that and, get a sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the last image?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Have you got any? So you've already gave us some film recommendations. Have you got any book recommendations? Because you said you've got tons downstairs of artists
Definitely.
and stuff. What's your?
Oh, I mean, okay, yeah. So there's art books for sure. I mean, anytime you can get your hands on a beautiful book. I go to thrift shops a lot and I see what type of art books they have because there's always really beautiful ones. And so anything for me, I'm really inspired by Rembrandt. So any books on Rembrandt, I love. Just the use of lighting in those paintings are just so inspiring. So that's really cool. But as far as books, beyond art books, like helpful books, I just finished reading, it's a book by Donald Miller and it's called Building a Brand Story.
Oh, yeah.
And it is the most helpful book I've ever read about website copy and marketing. And it's so easy. I listen to books on Audible.
Yeah.
So I just listen to them and I 1.5x the speed so I can
Yes.
just get through them really quick. I have a dog. So whenever I walk my dog, I just put my headphones on and I just listen. But that blew my mind and changed the way that I approach marketing and the way that I speak to my clients, the way that I speak on my website. Essentially, the premise is that we are meant to make our clients the hero of the story rather than ourselves. And I think the majority of business owners on their websites make themselves the hero.
Yeah.
I picked up a camera at this age. I do this. I do that. I'm an award-winning photographer, blah, 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 me, rather than you are looking for beautiful wedding photos. Let me help you. So photographers, videographers, whoever are meant to act as the guide to the hero in the story. And so he goes into this and uses a lot of movie reference, film reference. It's such a good book. It's mind blowing. So that's great.
All right.
The other one is, oh my God, like classic, but Elizabeth Gilbert, Big Magic. It's a lot to do with listening to the universe and these ideas that get sprinkled down by our elusive creative genius and whether or not we grab onto them. And if we don't grab onto them, they'll sprinkle around and find someone else to drop the idea to, because an idea essentially wants to live and wants to be, experienced. And so if we don't take advantage, someone else will.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a great one too. And then the last one is The Artist's Way by Julia Campbell. Those are the top three that have really changed the way that I approach my business and my work and my life.
Yeah. When you're listening on audiobook, do you have any techniques for remembering stuff from it? Because like Donald Miller's Building a Story Brand, I've listened to that, but I always felt like I was running when I was listening to it. And it's like, there's a lot of practical stuff in here that I want to make notes on, but I'm running and I can't stop. So is there any techniques?
Definitely. I think integration is really important after you read something, even if it's just one chapter or, you go out and you walk your dog or whatever it is, or go out running. I think there has to be an integration period where we actually put pen to paper or, keyboard and we do something. Like there has to be an active part. We can't just be retaining information. I think the integration has to happen. So if you can make time for that after you read something, even just making notes in the book at the end of that chapter, just write your to-do list of what you need to do based on the notes in that or the tips in that one chapter. And then you can review, go through your notes, your to-do list and carry forward.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But you're right. I struggle with that as well. So, by the way, you have a podcast, do you not?
I do. Yes. It's on hold right now. But
Okay. I was going to say, I noticed and then I've not seen another episode.
No. So it is on hold. So much like the Elizabeth Gilbert, sprinkling down of ideas, I tend to jump on things and I have to grab hold of it and do something with it, even if it's just going to sit for a minute and we're going to hold on. I have to get it started. So that was one of those situations where the name came to me, the idea came to me, the concept came to me, everything kind of fell into place. And I was like, okay, I just have to make this exist.
Yep.
And then it creates some accountability for me to carry on. So I have a lot going on right now, October and November, but mid-November, it will be starting back up again. I do have episodes that are ready and recorded, but I want to launch them in a proper sequence order, which my VA is going to be helping me with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I look forward to hearing more episodes.
Thank you.
Are you busy because you're in autumn and it's now your season and you're just like zhuzhing your house and becoming a different you? Because that is my wife all over.
No, actually.
Okay.
No, my girlfriend and we're hosting a retreat for wedding photographers at the end of October.
Cool.
And it's a wellness retreat paired with content shooting. So
very nice. Okay.
It's a mix. We have a sound bath and really good food and cold plunging and yoga and ecstatic dance and all these like really cool sort of like emotional somatic things to get your energetics into this creative mindset while also resting. And then there's a whole content day around storytelling. So it's a 3-night sleepover type thing. So we're doing that.
Nice.
And a lot of energy is going to that right now. And then I'm actually in Croatia at Grain Fest speaking early November. So yeah, I have a lot to do. And, I'm simultaneously prepping for Christmas season in our pottery shop that we own.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Yeah, and my older kids both play hockey. So, I mean, my life is just wild.
Just one thing to the next.
Yeah, it's great, though. I love it. It's fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Last question, Jennifer. Last question. For those who are new to this industry, what one piece of advice would you give them right now?
Oh man, there's so much. Okay, someone super new. I'm trying to think of what I would tell my friend who's just getting into this right now. So one is that you don't have to settle on one distinct style right away. I think a lot of people think when they first begin, they have to like choose a direction, choose a style. And I think in the beginning, I think it's really lovely to just sample. And when you're an artist and you're learning how to paint, when you're going to school for this, they actually teach you to mimic other artists and actually recreate works of other artists, whether it's charcoal drawing or paintings or even, doing a Rembrandt painting. It's like you're meant to sample and try things. And I think there's a lot of talk of, don't follow the trends, but it's like, I think you have to sample things and try things and get a feel for what you like and explore everything. It's like going to a buffet and just going to one item and being like, this is the item I'm going to eat on my entire plate. It's like you have to just try and sample, right?
It's a good analogy.
So
Most definitely.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest piece of advice. I think people get really lost in that and then they struggle for years on, I don't know what my unique voice and style is. And it's like, just explore and have fun. It's a fun industry. Like photographers, we have probably, I would say the best job in the world. Like we get to, first of all, we earn decent money doing what we do. We get to be with people on these beautiful, happy days. We get to just create. We don't work 9 to 5. Like it's just, I feel so blessed and so grateful that I've been given this opportunity. I think it's wonderful. And I think we all just have to have fun and just create and have fun doing it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what a lovely nugget to end on. Jennifer, where can people find you online?
Yeah, so Instagram is my most favorite place to connect with people. So it's just my name at Jennifer Moher. And then, the Wondrous will be popping off back in in November. We'll be getting that going again. And I also have Jennifer Moher Education on Instagram as well. Well, there's lots of stuff coming out. I have a cinematic storytelling masterclass on that website and all sorts of different mentoring options and downloadable content for you.
Hell
awesome.
Yes. So definitely go check that out. We are Cinemate Films. This is the Perspective Podcast. You can follow us at Perspective perspectivebycinemate.com. Our Instagram is at Perspective by Cinemate. I have just rebranded the TikTok to Perspective by Cinemate, so you can see us on TikTok. Oh, by the way, Jennifer's on TikTok as well, so you should totally thingy. And she's also got a podcast, which we never got the name of. Jennifer, what's your podcast name?
Oh yes, it's called The Wonderist podcast.
The Wonderist. So go check
The
that out.
Wonderist.
Thank you for sponsoring this episode with Jack. They do lovely insurance things run by Ashley Baxter, who is very good and very passionate about her job. So if you don't have wedding insurance or insurance and you're a freelancer, then definitely go and talk to Ashley. If you have loved this conversation, hit that subscribe button on YouTube at youtube.com/@perspective-by-cinemate, or wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, wherever.
Yep.
Hope to see you in the next one. However,
in the meantime,
enjoy your life.